Hello and welcome to a brand new show from the guy who brought you Dylan Knows and was a part of Snark Alec Radio and is me, Dylan Lang. This is Conversations with Myself, a brand new show that I created this weekend. Actually, it came to me Friday actually at work. And I decided that this might be something that I would like to pursue. A few things real quick. This will not be a weekly show. This will be a show whenever I feel like it. Like, for example, depending on how the election goes on Tuesday, I may or may not do a show on Saturday where I freak out if things go south for us. But if things go north for us, I might not do anything at all. Then I know I am going to plan on doing one at least probably in 2 weeks for Thanksgiving weekend, before Thanksgiving weekend, I should say, because Thanksgiving, I think, is a totally underrated holiday, but we'll get into that in a few minutes. So I'll probably do an episode in about 2 weeks, but then it might not be another one for a month, or it might be one next week. You know, so it's one of these things where whenever I feel like doing one and I have the time, then I will do one. So unlike Dylan Knows, which is the other show you should absolutely positively check out. That's more of a pop culture sort of thing. That's a weekly one that'll be out every week unless I take a week off here and there. And usually if that does happen, I will jump I will jump into maybe a double episode sort of thing. Or I might just say, heck with it, we'll just keep moving on. And there are times where I will do 2 episodes on a weekend just because of special events. Like the last one I did was I did my show, and then the next day I did my Spider-Man 60th anniversary show. I always do an Oscar weekend. I always do a regular show, and then I do my Oscar pick weekend show. So that's 2 right there. So we'll see what happens. As I said, I might not do this show every week, but I hope to do it whenever I feel like it. This is a bit more personal, so this is something a little bit more experimental, I suppose. Again, this is just about me, and that's probably going to be a huge turnoff for a lot of people because who the hell wants to know my personal beliefs on stuff or whatever? But I figure it's just a way to get me to get stuff out of my system. I used to do it on my show where things would upset me or I'd like to talk about it, and I would take like 20 minutes of my show just to discuss stuff about myself. And then the pop culture stuff that I'd like to do for my show got pushed to the side and ended up doing like a 2-hour show, which is a little bit long for people who watch these videos. So I'm going to try to make a concerted effort to make smaller videos so that people will pay more attention to look at them. But again, I'm not expecting really anything. This is just more for me. You can call it therapy if you want without paying for it, or just because I want to do something, you know, I'm bored or whatever, or just make my presence felt. So nothing exciting to look forward to, though. As I said, will be a little bit more personal info about me. You'll learn more about, if you don't already know me, you'll know more about my personal preferences. Maybe you are going to align with them. Maybe you're going to think I'm a total fucking retard. And I shouldn't say those words anyway, but I did anyway. And I should move on for that. Retard is an awful word. I shouldn't have said that. But sometimes the emotions get the better of me in that end. So here we go. So I just wanted to cover a bunch of stuff today. I'll do this episode is going to cover, you know, since this is the first episode, it will be personal information, and then some stuff that's been happening with my family. Then I wanted to do this for my Dylan Knows episode. That sort of was the impetus for me to do the show, was that there's this thing out on Facebook now where you do your 30 days of what you're thankful for, since it's Thanksgiving month. And that's great. That's cool. And someday I might like to do that because I am thankful for a lot of stuff. But then I started thinking about stuff like, why can't I do like stuff that I hate? And I like to yell about stuff I hate, because this week alone brought a bunch of stuff up about that brought things that I hate to the forefront against me on this one. So cover that as well. And then I might do, you know, side stuff where I used to do top 10 lists with a wonderful woman by the name of Jerry Fletcher. I used to do a comic book show with an awesome guy named MJ Khan. I used to talk supernatural stuff with Larissa, absolutely fantastic. And I used to talk international stuff with Bronwyn. So I might get back to some of that stuff, particularly top 10 lists, because I miss kind of doing them. And since this version of YouTube, I cannot have people come join me on the show like I used to. They used to have the chance to, you could have these meetings and you could turn them into a show. And that's what I did for the first 4 or 5 years of my other show. So we'll see what happens. And with the advent of podcasting as well, people are doing all kinds of podcasts like that. So why not add another one to the massive amount? Again, I have 0 people watching right now. I do not expect a whole lot of people to catch on with this. Besides my show, Dylan Knows, I only have about 5 or 6 steady viewers anyway. And one of those is usually me when I share it to other places. So that's what this is all about. So Conversation with Myself, Chapter 1, Hatred 101. We're not going to cover that first. Just for those people who don't know who I am, my name is Dylan Lang. I live in Reisterstown, Maryland, which is a suburb of Baltimore, Maryland, but not like right next to Baltimore, Maryland. We're in the upper northwest portion of Baltimore County, which means Baltimore City is roughly about probably 35 minutes away, depending on traffic, 30 to 35 minutes away, depending on traffic. And we're in Reisterstown, a little bit Reisterstown, and I might do an episode about Reisterstown down the line eventually. But just real quick, Reisterstown is one of the oldest towns in the United States, having been incorporated in like 1757 or something like that. Some crazy, insane stuff. So we are a classic old school East Coast neighborhood. We officially this year became a main street in America, so we are officially on the registrar for Main Streets of America. So, but I think I'll write that down as potential Reisterstown episode. So there's a good idea too. I live in a townhouse, which, as you can see, is absolutely, this is my basement, which I wish was clean, because if it was, we'd have an absolute wonderful space down here. But right now, this is just sort of storage, and it kind of sucks because the townhouse is kind of small, and then we have 4 people living here. My wife, Dawn, we've been married for, 19 years. 19 years. Our 20th anniversary will be next year. We've been together for 22 years. So there's that. We have 2 children. Our oldest is our daughter, who I'm not going to really name names on them. And she's going to be 16 in December. And then there's my son, who just turned 13 in August. So one's in middle school, one's in high school. They're both in Scouts, which is actually where they are right now, selling popcorn. And my wife is the what's the term? The head of the scouting group, the leader. Well, the adult leader of it. So, Scoutmaster, that's what it is. That's the other thing you know about me is my mind moves at 1,000,000 miles an hour, and I will forget things that I know, but my mind is just moving so fast that I forget certain things. So, even though I know Scoutmaster, I've said Scoutmaster a million times, it took me a few seconds to catch it. Now, I don't know if that's due to any mental illness or whatever, potential mental issues that I could have in the future. But we'll see about that. Work at a uniform company, going on now, going to be 16 years next year. And I've had my fair share of ups and downs with that company. I don't really want to get too much about that because it sometimes comes back to bite me in the butt, because sometimes some people who I work with catch some of this stuff and they hear some of the things I might say about them or the company, and they don't like it very much and treat me badly. So I'm going to try to avoid talking about that. But I do work at a uniform company. I am in charge of major account right now, and I also do our shipping. So that's what I do. I've always wanted to be a movie director, but I'm also very lazy and have no motivation really. I am an idea guy. I come up with 1,000,000 ideas, great ideas, and I write them down, and then I start writing them, and then something happens and I get away from it. Like this year, for example, I came up with a great idea for a TV show via streaming or whatever. And I wrote the first full episode, and I'm struggling to finish the second episode. I finished the first episode like back in March, and the second episode is almost done. Script is almost done. It's written. It's supposed to be a 6-episode story, and I'm having trouble sitting down and writing that. Mostly due to the fact that I don't have a lot of time because my job is very physical. I don't get a lot of really good sleep. The job is physical, and then when I get home, I'm just exhausted. And then usually I'm the one who's making dinner, going grocery shopping. So by the time, I have some free time, it's like 8 o'clock at night, and then we have to go back to bed and do the whole thing over. And the weekends, you'd think I'd be able to I stay up a little too late than I should because I'm making up for what I missed during the week, but then it makes me continue to be tired. So issues with that as well. I believe I have some sort of medical condition in my stomach area, and I probably really should get that checked out. But again, just not finding the time or the motivation, or I'm afraid of maybe what I'm going to hear. I haven't physically had a physical or been to a regular doctor since 1991. And that was because I had to have a physical to get into college. And that was the last time I saw a doctor. I do not have a family doctor or anything like that. If I do need to go see somebody about an illness or whatever, I go to one of the 24-hour first alert ones, whatever, not necessarily 24, but one of those ones where you just go in, then they can take you real quick and give you, drugs if need be, and tell you what you have and stuff like that. When I tend to get sick, I tend just to let it run its course. There's, I think, other stuff there, but we're not going to really cover that right now because I want to keep moving on like that. I used to absolutely love comic books, have a massive collection, but over the last few years, I've been buying comics but have not been reading them. I've got boxes and tons of bags full of comics I have not even touched. That's the other thing I'm going to talk about. I have that going on. So there's a lot of stuff, Find My Eyes used to be 2020 till about 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago. Actually, about 3 years ago, I would say, probably around 2019 before COVID hit. And just because of age, they're starting to decay. I will be 50 years old next year, so I'm 49. Might not look it, but I am. 49 years old right now. Will be 50 next year. So that's good. So I've been around since 1973. I have my parents are divorced. Both my parents got remarried. My stepdad, Roger, died of cancer about 4 or 5 years ago, I think. I think it was about maybe longer than that. It might have been 6 years ago. I think it was around 2016, 2017, maybe 2018, somewhere around there. He died before COVID hit. So trying to remember, but he died of cancer. My dad and stepmom are still together. They've been married since, I guess, like 2006, 2007. So it'd be 15 years. They've been married for about 15 years. My stepmother has a grown son as well. My stepbrother Ryan, he and his wife Carly, they have a baby who's 1 year old. Well, he's not a baby anymore. He's a 1 year old. They live up in Rhode Island. So see them periodically. It's nice to see them. My dad's side of the family is huge. He is the oldest of 6 children. Not all of whom have had families, but the majority of them have. My Aunt Terry and my Uncle Jimmy are the only 2 that have not. But my dad, my Uncle Philip, my Aunt Kathy, and my Uncle Frank all have had families. My Uncle Frank lost his wife to cancer a long time ago, like 2015-ish, I guess, before my stepdad died. And he has 2 kids. His daughter, Kelly, just had her second baby in October. And his son Alex lives with him down in South Carolina to help him out. My Aunt Kathy lives in Georgia. She has 3 children who I have not seen. They're my cousins I have not seen in forever. They live down in Georgia. And my Uncle Philip lives literally about 15 minutes away from here. He's been married twice. From his first marriage to my former Aunt Brenda, he had 3 children. My cousin John, who died of COVID in 2020. My cousin Jennifer, who had a stroke in 2021 and lives in Michigan with her husband and her daughter, Rain. She's doing better from what I've heard. And then my cousin Paul, who's a school teacher, and found he was kind of didn't know what he wanted to do with his life, and then something clicked and he decided to go for his education major, got his education degree, and became, I think he's a 2nd grade teacher at an elementary school. I'm not exactly sure, but he is one. And then then my Uncle Philip married my Aunt Mary Beth, who he's still married to now. They have 2 kids, my cousin Liz, who will be getting married next September, and my cousin Greg, who lives up in the Massachusetts, Rhode Island area as well, has been living with this woman for a couple of years now, and they're too busy getting their careers and stuff, but they'll probably eventually get married as well. My mom's side, she just has 1 sister, my Aunt Jane. Her and my Uncle Don have been married for a long time. They have 2 kids. My cousin Amanda, who is literally about 3 weeks younger than I am. She was born in early July of maybe 2 weeks actually, early July 1973. She is married to a Navy doctor, so they move around a lot. They're currently in North Carolina. They have 3 boys, one of whom just started college. And my cousin Ben was in the Navy as well, but he did his time. He's a veteran. He fought in the Iraq War of the early 2000s, was pilot, and now he's done his duty, and now he is settled in Boise, Idaho with his wife Heidi and their 2 kids. And he flies massive cargo planes for FedEx now. My sister, I have a sister. I forgot my sister. Sorry, Stacy. My sister Stacy, she is older by 3 years. She lives in Virginia. Has been married for almost 30 years next year. She has 2 boys. My cousin Luke, who I'm going to talk about here in a second, and my cousin Drew. My nephew Luke, and my nephew Drew. On my wife's side of the family, she has 2 other sisters. Shannon is married with 2 kids, one of which their oldest daughter is literally a week older than my daughter. And then they have a son. And then her sister Catherine is married as well. They live in Ellicott City. Shannon and Jeff live in Virginia. Kath and Mike live in Ellicott City. They have 2 boys who are twins, actually, not identical, but and they're enjoying their life as well. My in-laws are down in Olney, Maryland. They're living their best life, and that's it. None of our grandparents are alive. They all passed away. So that's basically the rundown of my family. So I'll be talking about various things about them as well. I don't like to. So that's about it. I think I'm going to, because I want to get moving on this again. I'm trying to keep things short and light. But just a quick introduction about who I am and stuff like that. I play Fortnite. I play Pokemon Go. One of my best friends from high school is a Minecraft streamer, but he's been streaming some other stuff lately. He's monetized on YouTube, so he's it's pretty impressive with that as well. I've done a bunch of stuff. Just real quick, I've various jobs I've done. I was a paper boy. It was the first job I ever did. I worked in a grocery store. I worked at a comic book store. I worked at a comic book warehouse. I worked in the cafeteria at my college. I had a radio show my senior year of college, which I'll talk about in a little bit. I was a columnist in my college newspaper my senior year as well of college. I worked at a hotel for 3 days. I'll tell you that story someday. Maybe I'll do that. Job stuff. Job stuff. It's another good episode. Go into more detail about that. Then Worked a seasonal job at the Towson Town Center, the mall, where we sold See's candies the first time ever. They're from California. We had one of those little things. So I worked at the mall during the holiday season. So that was crazy. Then worked for WLAF 101.9 Light FM radio. Did marketing and stuff like that. Did events where we would go and promote the radio. Promotions was actually the name of it, not marketing, promotions. And worked with the DJs and ran some famous people. We'll talk about that again sometime down the line. Then I was the first person hired for the retail village at Rainforest Cafe when they built one in Towson Town Center, and stayed there for a few years and was one of only 2 people of the original group that was hired who were still there years later. The other one was my friend Alan, who was the manager at the time. I'll talk about that later. Then started working at Diamond Comics Distributors, which at the time was the only distributor of comic books in the country. Was a customer service rep where I dealt with California accounts and Washington State and state of Alaska. Again, I'll talk about this some other time. So that was interesting. And then I did a brand manager job for about 9 months, which I was disappointed in myself with that. But in the end, that's what it was. Then I got this job at, then I worked at the, what do you call those? Self-storage facility, which was a nightmare shit show for about 4 months until they fired me. And then I got this job at my uniform company. So that's my work history. High school, elementary school and high school, I acted. In college also, I acted as well. So I've been on stage multiple times. I was an extra on the TV show Homicide twice. Let's see what else I can talk about. Played a varsity sport in high school. I'll talk about that some other time. High school is another one too. It's just stuff that I don't have to really, and I'm just giving you general knowledge. High school, college, actually probably better. Cover that aspect as well. So I've done a lot of interesting things, and a lot more to go into, but again, I'm 22 minutes in and I really haven't gotten to the gist of what I want. I'm trying to keep things low, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to do this show, because I wanted to chance to spread my wings out a little bit. So we'll see how that goes. So I just talked about who I am. And I said there's more to me than that, but that's just the general scraping of the surface. And hopefully during the run of the show, you'll get a better understanding of who I am, if you want to anyway. So the next one I want to talk about is I just talked about my personal life, so I figure I may as well continue on that end as well. A lot of family stuff sort of going on this week, good and bad. The first thing is, I think it's okay for me to announce this because no one's going to watch this anyway. But apparently my mother had a mammogram about a month or so ago, I guess. They discovered a lump on her breast and they tested it. It is cancerous. It's 2.5. Yeah. They're 2.1 or something like the 2.3. Let's say it's a low level cancer right now. They did some other research on it and discovered that it is not in her lymph nodes. Now she's going to do some more invasive stuff to see if that was actually verified. But the original test of it showed that it has not spread to her lymph nodes. It is just contained in this tumor. So she's had a consultation with 2 different places, wants to get 2 different points of view about what she has to do. And both of them agreed that what they want to do, because originally she wanted to have lumpectomy this month because she's worried that it's going to, grow and get worse for her if she doesn't get it done quicker. But they told her, no, it's at this level where it is fast growing, but it's not going to, if we put it off for a couple months to have a lumpectomy, it's not going to affect you in any way. Because what they want to do is they want to start her on a course of chemotherapy drugs, not the radiation to begin with, but the chemotherapy drugs to reduce the size of the tumor so that when it comes time for the lumpectomy, it would be a whole lot easier to get it off and a better shot of there not being any cancer accidentally leaking out or whatever. and then they want to do regular chemotherapy radiation after the lumpectomy on that area to make sure that it does not spread anywhere else. Obviously, my mom is not happy with this, but she does also realize that this is maybe the only way that she might be able to survive, be a survivor. One of my wife's aunts had a similar lump, not quite the same as my mom's, but something similar, and she's still around and kicking and not having any issues. So should not be a problem for my mom. She does everything she's supposed to. Now that adds a little bit of extra strain to my sister and I. We've got to figure out how we're going to handle stuff because she will be weakened after doing this. So she will not be able to do her yard work or clean the house or like make food for her as much as she might want to after she does her chemo stuff. So we're thinking we're going to have a discussion eventually down the line. But I think we might hire somebody to help her out for a while. Now, this isn't going to be forever because it's, I think, 4 to 6 months is the regimen for chemo. So if she should start her chemotherapy drugs this month. So you do that November, December, January, February, March. Between March and May of next year, she should have her lumpectomy. And then let's just say it's April, which is the midpoint, 4 to 6 months after that. April, May, June, July, August to October will be the other window where she need to have her radiation. So she should conceivably by Halloween or by this time next year should not have to be worrying about any other chemo stuff or her tumor or anything like that. She should be completely clean at this point in 1 year. So this year is going to be a little hard and taxing. It should also be, as I said, an interesting one because it's my 20th wedding anniversary, my sister's 30th wedding anniversary, my 50th birthday, my cousin Amanda's 50th birthday. Got all kinds of interesting stuff. And all my friends who were born in 73 are going to be having their 50th birthday next year as well. So should be a big year for all that. So we'll see how that goes. So it's a shock, but the fact that as of now it has not invaded her lymph nodes is a good sign to me. And I think if the chemo drugs do what they're supposed to and she gets the tumor removed as it's supposed to, and then she has to have the chemo for the radiation on that also. In a year's time, as I said, she should be fine. It's going to be a hard year for her, I think, and she's not getting any younger, but that's why we're going to try to be there. My sister and I are going to try to be there for my mom and to fighting her cancer. So I'm not the biggest thoughts and prayers guy. I'm Catholic, but I'm not insane Catholic, which was another thing we'll probably discuss down the line eventually. But anything you can do, good thoughts. It's going to be a hard year, and I hope it's going to be okay. But on the flip side, it's big bad stuff. But we do have a lot of good stuff that's been going on in my family right now. My daughter is on the cusp now of getting her Eagle project done. She is going for Eagle. She just got the okay from everybody, the BSA and everybody involved, that she can move forward with her Eagle project idea. Her plan is to possibly work on it next weekend. Again, isn't going to take a really long amount of time. Would probably take a day, maybe a weekend to finish. But she's got the okay to do that. Now she just needs to get it in gear, get the people to come help her, and get the donations to get the stuff that she needs. So good on her for being able to do this. And also shout out to her. Also, she did a merit badge event yesterday where she was only going for 4 merit badges and ended up getting 7. So she is perfectly set up for that as well. Sticking with the Scouts, both my son and daughter, if you don't know how the BSA works, now that girls are allowed to be part of the BSA, Boy Scouts of America, we're just going to call it Scouts of America, they divide them into their own groups. So the one where my son goes has a girls troop and a boys troop. My wife is the scoutmaster of the girls troop with my daughter in that one. And my son is part of the male scout troop at the same church in the same headquarters. They have the same day, Thursdays, or when they have their events. Now, if you know anything about Scouts, Scouts is is run by the students. So the students are not students, the kids. The kids are the ones that run it. So the adult scoutmasters are there just to make sure they stay on target and be a presence to make sure that kids aren't goofing off, or if anything happens, they'll be there to help out in any situations as well. And so they need to have something called a SPL, which I think is something patrol leader. Not exactly sure what it is, but that's like the boss. They're the ones that the scouts are the ones that vote on someone in their scout troop being SPL, and they have the job for, I think my daughter said, for 6 months. It's either 3 or 6 months. I can't remember what it is. I think it's 6 months, where they're the ones who are in charge of determining what they will be doing during their scout nights, their scouting events every week, every Thursday, scout meetings, I should say. And obviously they will have a little bit of a help from the scoutmaster who say, well, maybe you want to do this or maybe you want to do that. But the SPL is the one that is going to run it. And for the first time ever, both kids, my daughter and my son, are the SPLs of their respective troops. Really big deal for my son, because my son I love dearly. He's obsessed with computer games and doesn't really do any athletic stuff, but we want to make sure he did something. So we got him into scouts. So he's getting a little exercise and doing stuff, but most of the time, we might let him have a little bit too much screen time. But at this point, it's either or, it doesn't matter. But the fact that he wanted to do this and was pretty good at it, because he was ASPL, the assistant, for the last regime in his scout troop. And the guy who was SPL was barely there because he's involved in soccer. So my son was the one who was mostly involved in running the event. So has some experience doing that. So now he's the one doing that. So that's really, really cool. And I'm very proud of both of them. And finally, the last family news story for me is my nephew Luke, my oldest son. I told you about, my sister's oldest boy. He got a job that he loves in West Virginia. He is renting a townhouse about 20, 30 minutes from where his job is, but I'm 20 to 30 minutes from where my job is, so that's not that big deal. He's 10 minutes away from big friends of his, friends that they've been friends with for years, and is a lot closer to my sister, which makes her happy, because his first job out of college, he lived 4 to 5 hours away from my sister. And so it was hard for them to go down to see him, because it was a long ride back and forth. And then to get him up for the holidays and stuff like that was always a chore. And they'd have to leave early to make sure they made it back in time, blah, blah, blah. Well, now he's only about an hour and 10 to hour and a half away from his mother. And so that makes her extremely happy, because now it's going to be a lot easier for them to go see him, and also for him to come do family events, stuff like that. Like my nephew Luke is an Eagle Scout, as is his brother Drew. They're both Eagle Scouts. And both of them have said that they would absolutely love to help my daughter with her Eagle project. So hopefully we'll be able to see them when the time comes. So there's that. So that's sort of stuff going on with my family right now. One really big bad thing and some pretty good stuff. So I will keep you updated when something comes up like that. I talked to you earlier when I was telling you a little bit about myself, that one of the things I did in college was I was on a radio show. Had 2 radio shows for WXAC 92.1, I believe, or 91.2. Can't remember. Oh God, see, this is what I should know this. I think it's 91.2 actually. Now I think about it. Let me just look this up real quick. WXAC 91.3. Yes, 91.3. Okay, I knew it was something like that. My friend Pat is probably wants to kill me right now. But 91.3 FM. What's interesting about that is it was my senior year. So the radio station had always been there through my whole college career. I went to a place called Albright College in Reading, Pennsylvania. Graduated with a BA in history. Wasn't the best in the world, but I did enough that I got my education. So I have a college education. I had a lot of really good experiences, which I'll talk about in my college show eventually. some good, some bad. But all in all, it helped shape who I am today. Anyway, so I went to college starting the fall of 91 and graduated in the spring of 95. So I'm class of 95. And when I got there, the radio station was around, but the radio tower was on campus, was on top of the science building. And they could not run the radio station during the day while classes were going on because the tower would interfere with the scientific experiments that were going on in the building. It was at the time the only place they could put the tower, and that's why it's the whole situation. So I think at the weekend they were able to do a little bit more, obviously because no one was in the science labs at that time. But during the week, they could only start doing radio at like 5 o'clock once all classes ended. And then, of course, there might have been some night classes, which I'm not sure if there was or not, but it doesn't matter. So the radio station really only ran from like 5 to midnight during the week. And then it might have only been like even lower than that during the weekend. I don't even remember being around all that much during the weekend. So they had only a small amount of people working at the radio station. So eventually, during the 3 years leading up to my senior year, the guys who were part of my class, my friend Pat and Eric and a few other people as well, they wanted to make the radio station be something bigger than it should be, because it's early 90s, college radio was huge. So they wanted to make it similar to all the other sort of college radio stations that were around and going on about that. So they did as much as they could to get money generated and built up, and were requesting things, stuff like that. They requested money for a new tower to be built off campus or somewhere not on a school building that would interfere with stuff. That way they can run the station if they needed to 24/7, though they end up not doing that anyway. But they still wanted more time and more slots, and they wanted to build the brand of 91.3 WXAC. And they were successful. And so I think in the around the spring semester of my junior year is when they started building the new tower. And it was not going to be completed until around the end of October of our senior year. So we wouldn't be able to start our senior years off with full allotment of radio stations, but they knew that they had the date when it was going to end. So they knew that if we need to get more people to come in and do radio shows, we're going to have a lot more time to fill once this happens. So they put out something that said, hey, if you want to be radio, come on in. We probably have plenty of slots for you. So they had everything listed. They put their slots where they wanted it. So then other people would fill in where they were going to do slots. So I slotted in 2. One would be Fridays from 3 to 5 in the afternoon, which was good because I had a class on Fridays that was at 2 o'clock. I went till 2:50. And it was right by the radio station. So I could just have a backpack full of tapes and CDs, and could just, as soon as class was over, just run on down to the radio station. I'd still get there with about 5 minutes to spare pretty easily and get myself ready for the show. That was my It's Dylan A. Lang's radio show, which was a show where I just played whatever the hell I felt like playing. It could be 1 minute could be like a rock song, the second minute could be an opera bit, another could be a classical music piece, then one could be a reggae song or whatever. I played whatever the hell I felt like, and that was fun. The 3 to 5 afternoon slot was fun. And then I got the coveted, I don't know how I got this, but I got the coveted spot of 10 p.m. to 12 midnight on a Saturday. Now, I guess that might have been because everybody's out partying at that time. So they needed, no one wanted to take that slot because it took away from their partying time, but it was a good time. So that I made into my movie music and scores show, which basically where I played scores and songs from movies, which I had a huge collection of and I was a big fan of, being a big movie guy, and I want to be director sort of thing. So I did that as well. So I couldn't believe I was able to get that approved by the staff. They were my friends, but they were very sticklers for what they wanted to play. They wanted to be a very independent, underground sort of radio station. But I was playing stuff that, seemed off and odd to them. And so they were not very happy, but they accepted because I was their friend. It was my senior year. It was my right, stuff like that. So did that. So I bring all this up though, because I remember for a fact that October 31st, 1994 was Monday. There's a very specific reason why I know that, but I'm not going to get into that right now. It's really, really personal. But there's a reason I know that was a Monday. And I verified it today when the thought, well, not today, on Friday when the thought crossed my head. And it was, October 31st, 1994 was a Monday, as I said it would be. So that led me to believe that I remembered that my first radio show, the radio station was fully operational with all their slots available after Halloween. So that Friday, this past Friday, which is November 4th, 2022, I came to the realization that November 4th, 1994 was also a Friday, was also the first time I ever did my radio show. And because I remember it being after Halloween, and that was when no one was doing radio up to that point because the tower was getting finished completely, so they didn't want to have anything run through it while they were still working on it and to have anything to screw it up. So they waited till that point in the school year when everything was done and ready to go. And that Friday was the first time I ever did a radio show from 3 to 5 p.m. So that was great. So that was a celebration for me on Friday. It was 38 years ago. Was that right? Hold on, 28 years ago. 28 years ago. Sorry, 28 years ago, I did my radio show for the first time ever. So that's good. Again, I'm talking personal stuff, but I'm also just going to throw out little things that cross my mind, whatever. For those who don't know, the Powerball drawing yesterday, Saturday, that was supposed to be $1.5 billion. Nobody won. So the next drawing is on Monday, and the jackpot is now $1.9 billion. I don't know if this is the biggest one because I kind of remember going to 2 before, but I don't remember. But $1.9 billion will be the jackpot for Powerball. If you go with the cash option, it'll be $929.7 million. So that's almost $1 billion that you could win if you just take the cash option, which is insane. So I used to play the Powerball and the Mega Millions, stuff like that, like 10 years ago, all the time when the jackpots got up to like the 300 million, the 400 million, the 500 million. And about a year or so ago, when it started doing it again, I just stopped buying tickets because I wasn't winning. Obviously, it's a 1 in a gazillion chance that you're going to win the lottery. But there's always a chance because people have won these big jackpots before. So that's what is the driving force for the Powerballs and the Mega Millions, is that they realize that someone eventually is going to win. There's no rhyme or reason who it is. It's not set up, despite what people believe, that it's a fixed thing. No, it isn't. They pick these things at random, and it's the people who buy the tickets. It's all randomized as well. And there are billions and trillions and gazillions combinations you can do. And to find the right one that matches up with the Powerball and the Mega Millions is nigh impossible. But there's still a chance. As Jim Carrey says, so you're saying there's still a chance, from Dumb and Dumber. So $1.9 billion, a $929.7 million cash option. I've always been told the cash option is probably the best one to take because you get the big lump sum all at once. Even though it's not the full $1.9 billion, you get a lot of money. And supposedly, from what I've heard also, again, I don't know because I've never won, you only get taxed that one time on the big amount because that's income. That's, anything else, is income for that year. So that has to be considered as income tax. And that's what it is, income tax. Whatever you bring in or make in a year, you have to pay taxes on. that includes you billionaires who stick your middle finger up to people and say, I don't need to fucking pay taxes. Yes, you fucking do, you assholes. And that's like stuff I'm going to talk about on this show. That considered, I think I read somewhere that if you took the cash option on last night's, which was 700 something, you would have, after taxes, you would have had about 400 some $million. So taking that, the grant, it's about $300 million, taking out taxes at state and federal. If you win the 929.7 cash option, if you decide to do that, you're going to, after taxes, you'll still have like 629.7 million. Or you can just round off to $629 million will be yours after you pay your taxes. And then, that's, you're not getting 1.9 billion because the other option you have is to get monthly checks. I think it's not weekly. I think it's monthly checks that break it out over 25 years, something like that. So let's see if I can, I doubt this will come out right, but I'm just going to give a general idea. Clear. 1.9 divided by 25 equals, maybe let's try the opposite here. 25 divided by 1.9 equals, it could be like, $13 million a month, something like that for maybe not 13 million, but something like that. But it would be, maybe 1 point something. It would be something like that. But it would be something ridiculous where you wouldn't get the full amount. I mean, you would eventually get $1.9 billion, but every month you would get only a certain amount for that. So it's like your job is getting money from the lottery. So you, as I said, it might be like $13 million a month. I don't know if that's how the numbers work out. I guess when you think about $1.9 billion, 25 years, 13 over 12 months, $13 million a month sounds okay, I guess, as a monthly total, but you have to wait 25 years to get this. So 13 million would be good, a month to get that taken care of, but you're getting taxed on that every month, and you're going to get taxed every year because that's considered income. And so they're going to take a lot of that out of you. So if you just take the one big lump sum out of the way, boom, you have this. Now, again, I don't know if you do win the lottery, go to a financial person. Don't listen to what I have to say. Go to a financial person, find out for sure what the deal is with that. But I'm bringing this up though because it's always, the Maryland Lottery uses the dreams only $2 because it costs $2 for a ticket, and that's what you do when the jackpots get high and you're at work and you're all talking about it, just sort of chit chat and stuff like that. You start talking about, the jackpots, and you start talking about what you would do if you won all that money and stuff like that. Would you let people know? Would you come into work? Would you call out? Would you quit? Would you keep working? It's all types of, and what you would do with it. That's the other thing too. So I've had plenty of time to think about what I would do with it. And I think I have a really good plan laid out about what I would do if I won the lottery. And to hear all the horror stories that come out of people who've won the lottery. And I see these stories now. It's like, winning the lottery might not be good for you. So I clicked on the article to see what he meant. And he gave a couple examples of people who were stupid. Because when you get that influx of money, the first thing you want to do is you want to spend it all. You want to buy everything. And then before you know it, you're like, oh God, I don't have any more money left over. Oh my God, I spent it all because I wanted to get 20 cars, or I wanted to buy a mansion for $30 million, or I wanted to buy a business, or I wanted to go on a trip around the world or something like that. And all of a sudden, you lost all this money, or people are just like, your family members tried to extort you and stuff like that, which, could happen, or people you've known in the past. Now, the first thing you should do is, don't let anybody know, let some, obviously your significant other and some family members know as well that you won, but you might not want to let the whole world know that you won. Now, when you go down to receive your check, there are people who wear all kinds of disguises. One dude had a scream mask on because he didn't want his family to see it. You just have to go down there, and the lottery knows who the winner is, but they don't have to. They're obligated not to tell anybody if anyone asks about it. They can't just say, "Oh yeah, it's this guy," because that would really be kind of bad if they did that. So as long as you sign everything above board, you prove who you are, you have the right tickets, stuff like that. They don't give a rat's ass. Here's your money, boom. Do whatever the hell you want with it. I don't care. So that's the way I look at it, is that, they say that, people have all kinds of issues because they come into a lot of money and they automatically go and they spoil it all. Now, precedents that they call for that are athletes who, when they sign these massive contracts for their first year, like football, basketball, baseball, hockey, whatever. They sign these big contracts, and then all of a sudden, about 5 years later, they're bankrupt and they have to get a job after they've blown their knee out or whatever, and they don't have an education. That's a whole nother story right now. But the reason why is because those guys are young. A lot of them might be kids who grew up in poor parts of town who wanted to get out of being poor, so they honed their craft and became really good. And so once they get that influx of money, they've never had it. They want to spend everything on what they've been dreaming of, and that means, getting a group of guys to come hang out with you, your buddies. Hey, I'll take care of you guys. You were with me through thick and thin. Here, you can each have like a $300 million or whatever. And they all hang out, and then that can become bad. And then you buy Lamborghinis, and you buy, a lot of people are cool. They buy houses for their families, which is cool. But a lot of them just spend their money like it's water because they've never had it before. And they have been living in poverty, and they want to feel the love and everything that's great about having money and not having to worry about that stuff ever again. And then, things could go south that way. And so a lot of people, that's what they say, is that people are going to jump into that. Now, I'm almost 50 years old. I've had some money difficulties. I have to admit, I've never suffered when it comes to the people who live, in the poor parts of other places as well. I've never had to deal with the stuff like that. I mean, there've been times where, particularly when both kids were in daycare, where money was really tight. We were living paycheck to paycheck, and I wasn't able to, get stuff that I wanted to get, like movies and books and comics. And that's fine because, I had to take care of my kids, get them, have them be taught and covered while we were at work, because both my wife and I could not afford to not work our jobs, because we had to keep payment on this house and food and keep our kids healthy and stuff like that. So I suffered, but nowhere near as much as the people who've had lived in poverty and have grown up in that type of stuff. So I'm not making any generalizations, but my point is that I can see, and I don't blame people who, when they get in big influx of money, that they want to spend it all immediately because they've never had anything. What I like to do is, because I'm more a bit laid back, is I just want money so I don't have to worry about anything ever again. I don't want to have to work ever again. I don't want to have to worry about paying for my house, keeping my kids fed, keep my house upkeep and stuff like that. I don't want to worry about bills like that. Like, I give you a good example. My dishwasher, I think, is on its last legs right now. It was leaking badly underneath it last night. Normally, it had been leaking from our trash compactor, and it had a bucket, and that was fine. But now it was starting to come out onto the floor, which was causing some issues. And also, you might be able to see back there. Let's see my hand. There's definite graying streaks there, and a little bit over here as well. That, I believe, is leaks in the pipes, which is going to cause those, and there are leaks because there's a box back there that is wet all the time when we run the dishwasher. And I came down here yesterday while the dishwasher was running, and it was leaking out the bottom, and I heard a drip going in there. Not a big, fast one, but it was a drip. And so I can see that there's something going on with these pipes. So I'm definitely going to need to get a plumber in here, take a look at that. You need new dishwasher, probably new trash compactor, whatever, and probably got to get these pipes taken care of as well. So that's all a lot of money. We don't have that money right now. So if I won the lottery, then yeah, that wouldn't be an issue. Yeah, fix all that. My wife wants hardwood floors upstairs, so I have money. Let's tear up everything and let's do hardwood floors. What else is up there? The plumbing itself in the whole house is kind of screwy, particularly upstairs. Let's fix that. The water heater we have, knock on wood, is still running smoothly, even though it's been here since the house was built in 2000. We need a new roof. The roof hasn't been changed since the year 2000. Haven't had any leaks so far, but you never know what could happen. Our deck is getting a little rotted right there. We probably need to get a new deck on that end as well. Just all kinds of stuff we have to to worry about. My wife and I need a new bed because the bed we've had since we were married in 2003. Actually, technically 2004 when we moved in. So technically we've had it for 18 years and we haven't replaced it yet. So that's what's causing, I think, some of my back issues that I have. So owning a house and taking care of it is a lot of money. We just spent money on a new washer dryer and a refrigerator last year. So it's been insane. And so I can see the beginning of the problem there. And the dishwasher is now an issue. The microwave blew out over our oven. So we had to buy a smaller, cheap microwave, which sucks. Our electricity is wired really weird upstairs. So we got all kinds of stuff. So if I had the money, I'd take care of all that stuff. So that's what people ask me about. What would you do if you won the lottery? Now, first thing I would do is I told you I would fix all this stuff about this house. And then I would buy a plot of land and have the whole family get together with like an architect and design our perfect house. I already have an idea of what I would like in this perfect house and get that built. I want to pay off all our debts. I want to pay off this house. I want to pay off the 2 cars we just bought, which is another thing we just bought a couple years ago, a couple of cars. So we have the car payments there. So we have to pay for those. Our credit cards, I use the credit cards when we've been having some money issues lately. So I've had to use my credit card. So I'm almost maxed out. I only have a 2,000 limit, and my wife has like a 5,000 limit on her Discovery card, and that's it. That's all of our regular credit cards. Everything else comes from our bank account. So I'd like to pay all that off. We've started a college funds for both our kids when they were born, so we've got money in there for them right now. But by the time they're old enough to go to college, my daughter can go in about 2 years. And my son still has about 4 or 5 years to go before he has to go. But college is expensive, but you know that already. It's much more expensive than when I went. So we have college fund already started for both kids, but then I'd like to throw a whole ton of money into that. So we don't have to worry about that either. They can go for their 4 years, 6 years, whatever they want to do without us having to worry about, how we're going to pay for it, And we'd set up trust funds for the kids also, so that they can access it once they get out of college, so they can start their life pretty easily, get, move to wherever they need to for their work, or if they want to stay here, they can, but then they'll have access to their money. They can buy their own car. They can buy their own place. They can get their own food, stuff like that, and be able to access stuff like that. I've also been told that you should put $1 million at least in a savings account, because the interest alone from the savings account will help you, live a normal life. I mean, if you don't want to have the big splashy sort of life, the interest alone on $1 million in a account like that will help you able to do that. I'd like to look to see if it is illegal to have offshore accounts, because you always hear about that in the movies. I'd like to put some money offshore as well as like a rainy day fund sort of thing. And my wife already is big on IRAs and stuff like that. So, and stocks and stuff like that. So we'll probably put some money in that. Obviously, we'll give a ton to charity because, hey, why not? We don't need all that money. And there are people out there who do need our help and our money like that. So we'll give them money to charity. Again, this is all stuff that I need to figure out what the rules are. This is just what my dream stuff is. I like to give a lot of money to my family. Every family, like my sister and her family would get a certain amount of money. My wife's 2 sisters would each, and their families would get a certain amount of money. All of our parents would get a certain amount of money like that, and just sort of just stick with that as well, to help them, with whatever they need, stuff like that. Because you're gonna have a lot of money. So I started thinking about that in my head, and maybe even buying new cars or getting our cars looked at and fixed and checked out, so we don't have to buy new cars, but at least just get them so that they are, road, okay, stuff like that. And then, just live our life that we want, travel, or, help take some of that money and open a business if you want to. It's something that you like to do, But before you think about all that stuff, just also about, paying your debts down and buying the house and or buying a plot of land and building a house and all that stuff. I did a bunch of running numbers in my head, how much, to begin with, I would pay off, rounding off a lot of stuff. And if we had $629 million, by the time we paid off all of our debts, college stuff, built our house, the plot of land, gave money to our families and charities and stuff like that, we would probably still have close to $600 million. Just think about that, because this house isn't very expensive, and repairs, it seems like repairs are always going to be so much money, because when you don't have that money, it is. So yeah, $1,000 for a refrigerator. Are you insane? $1,000 for a refrigerator? What, are you crazy? We can't afford that. So we got like a $600 refrigerator up there, and it's not the best, but it does its job. If you had $629 million, $1,000 refrigerator is like, there. It's like buying it for like $10. Boom, there you go. $1,000. We got a nice refrigerator. Perfect. So that's sort of like what I would do. I don't think I would go insane, but I would buy stuff and do stuff that I think would make my life better. And yes, I would never work again. I would not have to force myself to go to work again. My wife keeps saying that if we won, she would still be working because she gets good health care from her job. And I guess, if she stopped working and we didn't have that health care, the health care might be expensive. But we have $600 million, but what I would do then is, as I told you at the beginning of the show, I like to write a lot. I have a ton of ideas, and I'd like to be a movie director. And I would like to, write or draw or do whatever. And I would like the place that put my comics, a place to put books, and have like a swimming pool, and go to movies and watch movies all the time, and do stuff, and just rest, relax, and don't worry about a goddamn thing. That's what I would do with the money. And I think it's not out of the realm of possibility. And I think if I won that, I think I would be able to live comfortably for the rest of my days and not have to worry about anything anymore. And I also made the joke also that my family, I could also buy politicians if I want to also, and get them to pass stuff to help people around here too. So probably wouldn't do that, but well. So that was something else also I had there too. So good on that. Now we're going to get to an hour in. We're going to get to the gist of what the main reason why I decided to do this show. But real quick, it's kind of funny that I did my show yesterday, and we just passed it, how long my show from yesterday was. It was about an hour and 3 minutes. So we pretty much passed that right now. And I think this one's probably going to go to at least an hour and a half, which is normally what I usually do for my show. So, but for our first show, it's considered like that. This is, as I mentioned before, this is what was the impetus sort of for me to do this show. Was I saw that, you see the things where November comes, like, what are your what are the 30 things that you're most thankful for, and you do it for a day, like what's you're most thankful for here, and with this and this. So you do that, and that's great. It's good because Thanksgiving is time to be thankful, and it's good to be thankful and stuff like that. But I started thinking about that. It's like, you know what? There's so much shit going on right now. And I think some of my stomach issues that I have right now are due to stress and anxiety as well, not just from work and stuff like that, but from what's going on in the world right now, which is why I'm really stressing out about and have anxiety about this election on Tuesday, because you keep hearing all kinds of stuff. But it seems like since 2016, the bad guys have been getting the best of us. That's been 6 years we've been having to deal with all this bullshit, and nothing seems to be getting done. So that's just part of it, but there's a whole bunch of other stuff. So I figured I would just send out a list of all the stuff, the things that I hate. This is the reason why I did this conversation with myself. Talk about, just let everybody know, this is what I hate. And, you don't have to watch it. No, please stay the one watcher I have. And as I said, this show is about personal stuff, about what I hate. But we'll start with some easy stuff that if you've watched my other shows, or you know me personally, people who don't yield. The safety thing, the traffic thing, where there are two lanes and converging onto one highway, and one has a yield sign and one doesn't. If you're the one that doesn't, you're supposed to keep going. If you have the one that has a yield sign, you have to wait until that car passes, or if there's like 5 or 6 cars, you have to wait till they all pass before you can go in. But because people are assholes nowadays, apparently, particularly when they're driving, which I'm going to talk about a bunch here, I see people who are basically trying to race us. because I have to do this every day when I leave from home, when I leave to go home from work. There is a merge onto 95 South. And the people who are in the one they're supposed to yield, you can see them speeding up and they're going to try to beat you instead of having to stop because, oh, God forbid, I have to stop and let someone else go. And that's dangerous because if you're speeding and they're going and you have the right of way and they ignore the yield sign, you could cause an accident. And that pisses me off. And I just send my one viewer away. It's like, oh, I don't want to hear this bullshit. So I hate people who don't yield. I see it all the time. If someone doesn't yield for me, I freaking honk. I let their asses know. And if I'm really, really angry about it, I keep honking at them all the way on to 95. I scream and yell at them, give them the finger and stuff like that, which isn't good for my health, but that's what I do. People who speed past me. Look, I'm not the probably safest driver. I mean, I stay within my lane. I make sure that there aren't other cars in other lanes if I want to shift over those lanes. I always use my turn signal, even if I'm at like a stop sign and I'm turning left. You're supposed to use your signals and stuff like that. And even when I'm, changing lanes. Now, if there's nobody that I can see too much ahead of me, sometimes I don't put on the turn signal. I just merge over that. But that's that's rare in between. So 795 is a good example. 795 is the highway that runs right behind my house here. We're at the very end of it, so it's not that big of a deal. But you do hear some stuff. It's like particularly accidents. I talked about this on my show a couple weeks ago. I was sitting in my family room, which looks out onto, and it's not necessarily right there. So you look out my back window, my family room window. We have a waterford area where it's woods and trees and swamp and stuff like that, so that if we get heavy rains, it's not going to flood your basements. It's all going to go to this one area, and we have ponds and stuff like that. So we've got all kinds of animals, frogs and deer and fox living in there. Lots of birds, stuff like that, and lots of trees. So we have this big aquifer sort of area that goes for a long ways, and then there's a hill, and then there's the end of 795. So it's not like 795 is right there. There's a long distance between us, and the house is well insulated that you don't really hear a lot of the stuff. You don't hear a lot of just the major cars unless you have the windows open. Now you hear the air brakes of the trucks because they're loud. You hear motorcycles that are going 150 miles an hour. You hear them. You hear sirens, obviously. And you also hear car accidents, apparently. So there was a car accident that happened one day a couple weeks ago when I was had the windows open because it was nice out. Actually, I didn't have the windows open. They were closed. I was just sitting on the sofa, and all of a sudden I heard that, and then another boom like that. It was an accident. And then you heard the sirens and all that stuff. And I looked out, and you can see the lights were flashing, stuff like that. But 795 is 60 miles per hour. And the law that I've been told is that you're allowed to go 10 miles over the speed limit. So I always drive around 70, 71. Now, every time I've gotten a speeding ticket, I've gone 18 over. So you have the ability to do that sometimes, particularly on 795 because it's a straight shot, really. There's two lanes on 795, and so it expands to 3 eventually. But it's 60 miles per hour is the speed limit, and so I go 70. Look, I also sometimes go 75 because I've also known that 15 over sometimes also isn't too bad, particularly on the highway. And we have fast lanes and slow lanes, stuff like that. And I do go around people who are going slower because I can't sit still. So when I'm going like 70, 75 miles an hour, which is, I said, 10, 15 miles over the speed limit, what pisses me off when people pass me, I don't know, when people pass me, that means they're going at least 80 to 90 miles, which means they're going at least 20 to 30 over the speed limit. And they're passing me, and it makes me seem like I'm one of these older people that I always pass who drive the speed limit. So, yes, you can call me a hypocrite a little bit because I pass people who are going the speed limit. But the fact is I'm going 10 to 15 over, which is the safe window according to like what I've heard for police officers, stuff like that. But then we have people who are blowing by me going 20 or 30 miles an hour like I'm they're pissing me like, God damn, you're so freaking slow. And it's always I'm afraid of that they're gonna think that. So I hate when that happens, and it happens a lot more than you think it does. Parking is a big thing also. Here in my neighborhood, we don't have a lot of parking spots. We do not have assigned parking spots because this is a regular community and it's parking. Anyone can park wherever they want to. But when we bought the house, our realtor was like, these two are your allotted spots. You can have 2 spots. That's really what the HOA stuff like that said. You're allowed 2 spots, but they're not your spots. But these are the ones that are considered. They're your spots. Other people do park in there, whatever. And I hate coming back from work and people are parked in my spot because you're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to, it's an unwritten law that you park only in your spots. And then the people we have around us, they have huge families. So most of the time their families come over, they take our spots. Now there's supposed to be 2 slots that are for visitors. 2 spots for visitors. But that doesn't really, again, there's no assigned parking, but it just pisses me off is that there's the unwritten law. I don't park in front of your houses unless I absolutely have to, unless your people are parking in front of my house, and I'll park in front of your spaces, where your space is supposed to be. And that pisses me off. My wife doesn't like doing that. She's like, oh, we can't do that. I was like, yes, we can, because they're parking in our spot. And I hate when that happens. So I really don't like that at all. I also don't like when you have a snowfall and you shovel out your parking spot, you and your wife's parking spot, whatever, and you leave to go to work and you come back and people are parked in your spots because other lazy ass people have not dug out the other spots, or people weren't parked there when the snow happened, but no one has shoveled out the other parking spots. So they see 2 spots already cleared and say, we'll just park there. I worked my ass off in the cold with my bad back, shoveling these for hours, and your dumbasses just say, fuck these guys. I'm going to take these spots because I don't want to park my car in the snow. That pisses me off more than anything. Now, you say, well, why don't you put, chairs and, stuff like that to say these are your spots. I've done that a few times, but in the end, again, it's public parking. And people sometimes they just don't care. They see that someone has put their stuff in there. I've seen it before. They drive up to it, they get out of their car, they move the thing, and then they sit and they park in their spot. Like, hey, fuck you. It's not your spot. I can park wherever I want to. And I hate that as well. So what I've been doing now is because I get into a rhythm when I'm shoveling. And hopefully when it's not heavy snow, it's most of the time I don't want to do this. I'll shovel out 4 or 5 different slots that don't have any cars in it. So that way, if assholes do take my spots, I can take the other spots that I shoveled because I shoveled them. Because I don't want to feel like if somebody else shovels those spots, I don't want to take those spots because they worked their asses off to shovel that. But because I did the work, I don't feel so guilty about taking the spots that I shoveled out. But I hate when that happens as well. The way we have our parking as well in our neighborhood is that it's a small window. It's pull-in parking, and then the road is narrow, and there's a spot you're not supposed to park behind the cars. Cars consistently park there. So it makes it impossible for me to back out because I might hit their car because they have cut off the window I have to pull out, because normally they're not supposed to be there. I can drive all the way there and be able to pull out easily and boom, I'm gone. But now I got to do the whole 3-point turn sort of thing. And you got to watch out for the cars that are parked next to you so you don't hit them either. Meanwhile, there are cars coming down that have to wait for you to do this bullshit. And I absolutely hate it. It's like, you're not supposed to park. There's signs that says no parking. And that's similar to also up at the top of our road. There's one way into our road. And it's a small, narrow area that you can fit probably 2 cars into. But people have started parking on that one side. So now there's only like a narrow area for cars. Again, so if a car wants to come in and you're trying to get out, you can't. You have to figure out how to do this because there's no room because these assholes are parking on this side. And I hate that as well. I also hate how people pull backwards into their car and into their spot. They stop and they reverse into their spot. It's like that takes a lot of extra time. Why the hell are you doing that? I'm sitting here, I'm trying to get home after a long day of work, and I have to wait for your stupid ass to back into your spot and make sure you get it right, because you're not going to get it right the first time usually. And then that's the other thing else that leads to, if you don't do it right, if you cross over onto where the parking spots are, that cuts down the spot where I can park now. So now I got to find another place to park. So people do that all the time. We have two on the curbs. We have two white marks. You have to park between those white marks at your parking spot. There are people who park on those spots, on those marks, halfway over that, where they don't park properly. And it takes out a parking spot now because you can't park there because this person is a dick. Hypocrisy is a big thing. That's a big thing about the GOP. They are the hypocritical. Yes, I'm a Democrat, liberal Democrat. I'm proud of it. And I hate this new version of the fucking QAnon GOP, the QOP, as they call it, or GQP, whatever they're calling it. That has arisen since 2016 was when it really came to the forefront, but with the Tea Party in the 2012 era, that's when it really started getting into it. But I hate the hypocrisy. I hate when you are saying, don't do this, don't do that, don't do this, don't do that. And then you go ahead and do it because it's okay if we do it, but you can't do it. That's hypocrisy. And no, there's nothing for that. I absolutely hate when, people get away with talking at work when they're not working and the manager walks by and doesn't say anything to them. But then when I'm talking to somebody, the manager comes and says, oh, you got to stop talking. Why? You let other people do it. And other stuff like that, the GOP is like, Democrats are pedophiles and they hate America and they hate black people and all this stuff. But then all the stuff that you guys do is exactly this. You want to know who the majority of political pedophiles are? They're in the GOP. You're the guys that want to have sex with 14-year-old girls. You're the ones that say it's okay that if a 14-year-old girl gets pregnant, she's going to have to carry it to term. You guys are fucked up. So hypocrisy, I hate that. Bullying is another thing I hate as well. Bullying is something that I dealt with through most of my schooling, pretty much elementary through about halfway through high school. About halfway through my high school year, I was able to fight back eventually, and I stopped getting bullied. But I was for the longest time. I was bullied for the longest time. So I see something here real quick. Okay, good. I'll check it out later. But I hate bullying in all types of forms. And that was one of the things I was always worried about my kids, because I was afraid they were going to get bullied. I didn't have to go through that. Luckily, we've been pretty safe when it's been coming that no one's really been bullying our kids. And that's pretty good as well. Music. Don't get me started about Kid Rock. Fucking asshole, dumbass, rich kid from Michigan who wants everybody to believe that he's some poor a-hole fuck. And he sings a song called All Summer Long, which he basically rips off Werewolves of London and Sweet Home Alabama's music, and then puts his own stupid ass lyrics to it and make him seem like he's some big tough guy talking about how it was so cool when he was growing up, how he and his buddies would hang out and do drugs and have sex and do all this stuff, and how cool it was and listen to music and stuff like that, and how life was so good. And that, I sometimes think of, seeing that girl I had sex with when I was in high school. Again, it's like, that's bullshit. You're Kid Rock. You fuck Pamela Anderson and movie stars. You're not going to come think about some stupid ass woman who's probably a housewife now, old, and that you hate like that. You're not going to think about having sex with her again. Fuck you. And just, you're a fucking moron, and you are a total loser, and you have totally drank the GOP GQP Kool-Aid, so you can go fuck right off, Kid Rock. So fuck you, you asshole. Sweet Home Alabama is another one also. Leonard Skinner is a racist band from the South. And Sweet Home Alabama, if you actually listen to the lyrics, talk about how they don't care that a crime occurred with Watergate, and that how Neil Young, we don't need your kind around making comments that you did because real Southern people don't need you. And they talk about how cool the South is and how Alabama is great and all this bullshit. It's like, fuck you, Alabama. That's the way I use it. I say, fuck you, Alabama. That's what I say. You fucking piece of shit, because you are one of the worst states in the United States. And you just need to just go the fuck away. I also hate the people that hate Marvel movies, and particularly Brie Larson's Captain Marvel. I understand why you might be upset with Brie Larson because of some of the comments she made, but there's no reason to diss things like that. And then people who say that the MCU is dying and stuff like that, and that other stuff is better than that, and so forth, and that, this fourth wave of Marvel has been lousy, stuff like that, even though I totally disagree with it. And I think, and it shows that it's still hugely popular, but these a-holes just keep saying it's the cool thing to rag on Marvel right now and Brie Larson, and they can do fuck off. Part of that is due to that asshole Zack Snyder, who is another one of my people I really had no one way or another. I thought he did a good job on 300. I thought he did pretty good with adapting Watchmen. But then when he did Man of Steel, he totally destroyed the character of Superman. And he has the same shtick in his films where he erases all color and tries to be dark and grim for every character. There's no color, stuff like that. Superman is not a dark and grim character. He is the light and the hope, and that's the whole point. That's why his costume is so bright, but not in the Zack Snyder bullshit and the storylines that they do. The Superman Batman one where made him think he was a god icon like that. That's a bunch of bullshit as well. And just the fact that Jonathan Kent, his adoptive father, is like, don't help other people. That's a bunch of malarkey and bullshit as well. The whole point is Jonathan Kent that's not Jonathan Kent. Jonathan Kent says you have to help other people. It's your obligation. You have this power. It's your job to help these damn people. Whereas this other one's like, no, don't help people, because I don't want anything to happen to you. Because if you help people, government's going to find out and they're going to kidnap you and they're going to do all kinds of terrible stuff to you. That's bullshit. That's not how Jonathan Kent is. The fact then that they had Kevin Costner, who was great, and I wish he would have been the real Jonathan Kent, had him walk into a tornado and not have Superman save his own dad to prove a point or whatever, is a bunch of bullshit. And then you got the Batman vs Superman movie. First of all, you got Ben Affleck, who's a terrible Batman. Batman doesn't kill, and that's something that I go back to the Tim Burton ones, which I loved, but Batman doesn't fucking kill. And here they are. He's doing the same goddamn thing. The Lex Luthor was god awful. The Wonder Woman was okay. But again, they drenched all color out of her, and she gave a monotone performance because of Zack Snyder. She was so much better in her solo movie. And then the whole, how they became friends because their mother had the same name is a bunch of malarkey as well. And then you had the Justice League bullshit where I feel bad for Zack Snyder because he left that movie because his daughter committed suicide. And they brought Joss Whedon in because he had success with the Avengers, and he changed everything up. And that's a whole other issue that's been discussed ad nauseum. And it's been talked about forever. But then once the movie came out and it flopped hardly, that's when Zack Snyder came out and said, well, there's actually a Snyder cut that is so much better, and we should release that. And so his goddamn fans, toxic fans, who if you say anything bad about Zack Snyder, come in and they start calling you names and they start harassing you and doing all kinds of bullshit to you. They say, yeah. So they, screamed at Warner Brothers, you've got to release the Snyder cut. So they said, okay, fine. We're going to release the Snyder cut. All right, give it to us. And he's like, well, it's not done. It's like, well, you've been saying that it's ready. It's like, no, it's not done. I need $10 million to finish it. No, that's remaking your goddamn movie. It's not releasing it because you said there's a Snyder cut, that it's already done. That was the whole point. You said there is a cut. In my head, which is a bunch of bullshit. So they gave him the money, and he made a 4-hour-long existential BS shitty movie. And all kinds of fucking bullshit. It was awful. And the fans got their things. And then things got released later on is that there were lots of bots who were saying that they should release the Snyder Cut. And Snyder was the one who was orchestrating all of this to make sure that his name kept being in that he is more important. He's the best director they ever had, and he should be the greatest director of all time. And then when they did that stupid Oscar fan thing, the same boss took over and had the greatest scene in movie history be the Flash entering the Speed Force. Fuck you. And the best movie of the year being some god-awful zombie bullshit. Come the fuck on. Both were done by Zack Snyder, and we're discovered later on that bots were the ones that caused that, voted ad nauseum. So, and then, he created, and he wasn't just a guy like who was being able to get the advantage from that. He was orchestrating the whole thing. And then when his toxic asshole fans don't do a goddamn, when they, harass and they terrify people, he just sits back and smiles like, this is great. These are my people. You're a fucking asshole, Zack Snyder, and I hate your stupid ass. And you've destroyed the DC stuff. The Joker, speaking of stuff like that, I think the Joker is overrated character. The Joker does not need to be in every iteration of Batman. You do not need to have him in every Batman story ever written. You do not have to have a whole series based on the Joker, which is all stuff that's happening right now. There's now one where Batman teams up with the Joker. Are you fucking kidding me? It's stupid. It's overkill and doesn't need to be around. I hate Tom Brady also. The former New England Patriots quarterback, now Tampa Bay Buccaneers quarterback. I am feeling a little bit of schadenfreude right now, which I probably feel guilty about, but he's an asshole and I don't like him. Main reason I don't like him is because he's a whiny little crybaby. I remember one year when they were on their run where they were undefeated, the Ravens were having a bad year, and they played them on a Sunday night game at home in Baltimore. And the Ravens were actually doing really good. They were playing probably the best game of the year. And the big story was that could this crappy Ravens team be the spoiler for the New England Patriots' perfect season? And we were doing it. We were taking it to them. They weren't getting a lot of traction. They would score, we would score. So it was a back and forth. So there was this one play where they had the ball, and Brady had the ball, and Bart Scott, who was one of our best rushers, was coming at him, and Brady threw the ball to somebody. I don't know if it was a completed pass or whatever. And Bart Scott came by and just didn't tackle him hard. Just his hand hit off of the shoulder or the helmet or whatever. And Tom's like, he needs a flag for the, he's hurting. He hurt me and stuff like that. I can't think of the roughing the passer. It should be a roughing the passer thing. It was a little hand off of, your head didn't even move that far. It was a boom knock. And it was because he was moving out of the way. So he wouldn't get that. And they gave him that. So that's a 15-yard penalty. Now, Bart Scott shouldn't have done this because he was pissed, but he took that flag and he threw it. And we got an additional 15-yard for unsportsmanlike conduct. And they ended up scoring. They ended up winning that game. But he was a whiny little crybaby that someone just glanced off of his helmet, and he demanded a roughing the passer penalty, and he got it. And he did, and that wasn't the only time he done it. He's done it a million times before. He still does it today. He got one in the Ravens Tampa game that he probably shouldn't have as well. So that pissed me off as well. So he just seems like a pompous ass. And look, I'm kind of happy his life is sort of going downhill now. Even though that's a horrible thing to say. I hate religious zealots who are the main reason why we're in this mess we're in right now. They claim to be Christians, but every one of their Christian ideals goes against what God and Jesus and the Bible says, or they pick and choose bits from the Bible to say, see, God is against gay people because it says in this one section in the Old Testament that he's against gay people. Well, you know what else it says in that section? It says you can't eat shrimp. It says you can't wear multiple pattern clothes. You can't wear cotton, polyester. You have to have a beard. You have to have a beard. If you are an adulterer, it's okay to stone them to death, which means to kill them, to stone them. Also, other things in the Old Testament, if a wife does not get pregnant with a male baby, the husband is taken away, and she has to have sex with her brother-in-law until she gets a male child. Yes, that's in the fucking Bible. You can check for yourself. But what is in the Bible is Jesus in the New Testament saying, love everybody regardless and give away all your money. And you shouldn't have a lot of money, and you need to be kind to everybody, not just certain people. He hung around with prostitutes and criminals and stuff like that. He was the original liberal, and he was Middle Eastern. He's not a white guy, because there was a white person in the Middle East during the time that Jesus was supposed to be around. It'd be in all the fucking history books, but there isn't. He was a Jewish carpenter who happened to be a prophet. Was he the son of God? No idea. And then the other stories about in the Bible as well. Noah's Ark. How did you get every single animal in the world? Remember, because the entire earth was flooded apparently, and Noah and his ark with every animal in the world were the only ones to survive. How did that happen? Did animals from South America make their way over to Noah's Ark? Did and how these animals not kill each other, because a lot of them are natural predators? Did the millions of insects that we have, did they make their way onto this boat? All the millions of birds that we have, did they make their way on this boat? How could hippopotamuses and rhinos and giraffes and elephants who weigh tons not sink this boat? And then another big fucking thing about the Old Testament, Adam and Eve. Think about this. Adam and Eve are considered to be the people that started us. They were created by God, and they fornicated, and they created the human race. They had 2 boys, one of which killed the other one eventually, but according to the Bible. But 2 boys, or at least 1 boy. So there's 2 men after killing the other, and 1 woman who was his mother. So you're saying the son had sex with his mom to create the human race. And then if she had a daughter and a son, eventually they would fuck each other or fuck the mom again. And then how do you have, Chinese and I should be Asian and black and white and Hispanic if they came from 2 white people? Doesn't make any fucking sense. The Bible basically is guidelines. What you need to take out of the Bible is, if you want to follow Christianity really is, it's to love everybody regardless of who they are. It doesn't matter if they're white, black, Hispanic, foreign, whatever. You need to love them. You cannot have a lot of money. Being rich is the bane of all existence. You cannot force your beliefs on other people. And yet these religious zealots, they pervert that. And the rest is history. God, I got a lot to do, and I still have a long way to go here. Here's just a bunch of little. Ironically, I hate when people hate other people, which is ironic. I know, for who they are or whatever. I hate that they hate other people because of who they are and what they stand for, stuff like that. I hate racism. I think we're all humans. We should all live together. And it doesn't matter if a white and a black couple get married, fall in love and get married, or an Asian and a Hispanic get married, whatever. It doesn't matter. Misogyny. Women are much more powerful than men are. And I totally agree. I totally agree with that. And that's the reason why misogyny exists, is because men are so afraid of being, weak, seen weak or whatever, that they go after the women who could kick their ass, basically. I hate uneducated people who think they know stuff, but they actually don't. They need to be a bit more educated and stuff. They spout off stuff that they see on Fox News or whatever and claim it that this is how it is, and this is not, it's horrible. I hate xenophobia. I hate people who hate foreign people or immigrants or whatever. We were all immigrants, You hate the Native Americans, tell them to go back to their country. You're in their fucking country. You took over their fucking country. This was their country before you dumbasses. I hate people who hate foreign people because of who they are. I hate people who are anti-LGBTQ, who are against gay people and trans people and bi people and queer people. And also, I hate that they feel that they do not deserve the same rights that others have. They don't do anything to bother you. Why the fuck should you force them not to get married? Why the fuck should we not put books about them in libraries? Are you afraid that if someone reads it, they're going to turn gay? Really? Well, if they do, it's because they got a perspective like it's okay to be who you are, because there might be people who are closeted in there who've been force-fed from your stupid racist fucking mouths saying, hey, you can't be gay. And it's forcing them. It's like, well, I am. But they have to be quiet because they don't want to be disowned by their family or disappoint their family. And these books were the only ways they say, okay, they're people just like me, stuff like that. I hate that. I hate people anti-gay people or trans people, whatever. Cruelty to children or child abuse, same thing. I hate that. Children, it's not their fault. Children came into this world. It's your fucking fault. And you should be the one to plan for this. I know there are unplanned pregnancies, but you adapt to it. If you do not want to be pregnant, abortion should totally be legal. That's my opinion as well. People say, well, it uses, that's just the version of birth control. Well, maybe if you allow more birth control, this wouldn't fucking happen. My wife and I, we wanted to have kids. We planned ahead of time and we had kids, but we also had a happy accident where a third one popped up. Unfortunately, it ended badly when my wife had a miscarriage. But I was stressing about how we were going to afford 3 kids now in our small townhouse and schooling, stuff like that. It was stressing the hell out of me. But I was going to try to make it work. We would have been able to make it work. But unfortunately, it didn't happen. And I just hate that people bring children into this world and then treat them like garbage, beat them, sexually abuse them, starve them, burn them, don't clothe them, make them, it's not their fault. They don't know what they're doing. They have to be taught by you. And that's the one thing also you need to know is that kids, when they're born, do not hate anybody. They learn from you and other people, their values, stuff like that. That's why, you should teach them to be, good. But the racist assholes who have these kids, they teach them to be racist assholes. So these kids become racist assholes. But that's why you need to get educated. So you get educated, and then you might be able to see their perspectives and stuff like that, how things work, and maybe you'll be able to change things up. And I also hate animal cruelty as well. Again, same sort of situation. Animals have nothing to do with anything. They're really kind of powerless. They're under your control, and to treat them miserably and horribly is absolutely awful. People who don't take the blame for something they did, that's something else that pisses me off. They always pawn off on something else. It was put away wrong, or someone, it must have been someone else who did it wrong, or someone, came into my open computer and changed everything around so that it fucked me up because they wanted to get back at me for something. That's a bunch of bullshit, and I hate that. People who talk during the movies, the movie theater. Say that for when you get home. That's why you watch them at home. But when you're in the movie theater, you shut your yap. You do not make comments. You not talk on your goddamn phone. You can laugh and you can cry. You can applaud, do all that stuff. But do not fucking talk during the movie. And that goes for theater also. If you're going to a play or whatever, don't do that either. I hate being overdrawn at the bank. We've had some overdrawns lately because we've overspent what we thought we had, and we end up not being able to use our money until we get paid. And then even then, when we get paid, the majority of that goes to wiping out the overdrawn. A good example is this week. I found early on, like Tuesday, Wednesday, that our account was overdrawn by about $900. So I think we got our mortgage was paid. So I get paid on Thursday, but it was only like $500 or $600, so that we were still in the negative balance on Thursday, despite me getting paid. And then when my wife got her money, actually, no, that was different. It was the 914 was after I got paid. So obviously we were in the hole by about, $1,400, which is about what our mortgage is, $1,300. But then my wife luckily got paid on Friday. She makes more money than I do. And that wiped out the overdraft. But it also took $900 away from us for what we can spend this week, because she gets paid every 2 weeks and I get paid every week. So this upcoming week, the only paycheck we're going to have is my $500 or $600 one, whatever it is. So we have to keep an eye on stuff as well. There's that. People who second guess me, I done everything right. I made sure everything is good. I do what I'm supposed to do. People say, "Are you sure you did this? Are you sure you did this right?" I was like, "Yes, I did it." And I'm usually proven right. I hate when people second guess me or doubt me. That's just something like that. Actually, I'm going to do that later. Yes, stupid commercials is going to be another whole other thing. Another episode, because I'm running a little bit over when I wanted to be. I think I might have to run Underwood also another time as well. So I might have to do one this upcoming week as well, because I think I'm going to finish up after I do my hate. Being ignored. I hate when people ignore me. That's just a personal thing, but I try to be cordial and stuff like that. But if I say hello to you and you just look at me and then just look away, either you can't hear me because you have your goddamn headphones on, or you're just a dick. And I hate being, I don't have to say hi to you. I'm saying hi to you because I'm being polite. People who say stuff after I say it and then they get the credit for it. Like if I make a joke, or if I say, "Hey, this is coming out on, on Monday. Like this movie's coming out on Monday." And then like an hour or so later, "Hey, did you know this movie's coming out on Monday?" "Yes, I told you." That's how you heard it. I hate when that happens as well. And they take the credit for it as well. I talked about it too. Yeah, people getting away for stuff that get busted for. That's also kind of a work thing. People getting away with stuff that you didn't be able to get used to. Like one of the things in my work was I was removed from a manager's job because honestly, I still don't know, but from what I've been hearing is that I was unreliable because I took a lot of extra time off. I have allotment of time, but then I had some other issues where I would go over my allotment of time. But then I just wouldn't get paid for that. So it really doesn't matter, right? But they're like, "Oh, you need to be here. And also you need to, make sure everything is received in before you leave." And yet the guy who does the receiving stays till 5:00. I left at 4:30 and I leave at 4:00 now. So that's one of the things that they busted me for, from manager down to a lesser employee. And then I've been noticing these managers now that we have are getting away with the same stuff that they busted me for. So I hate that kind of stuff too. Speaking of work real quick, that's what I wanted to cover as well. I think I'll do that, and then I'll talk about this other stuff later. We had our Halloween costume contest at work, which is a tradition. I've won 6 of the now 15 times that we've done Halloween. It was at the time was $50, two $50 prizes. And so I won 6 times. So pretty cool, right? $300 over 6 years. This year, they decided to up the ante and make the costume contest be $200 prizes. So I figured since they upped the ante, I had to up the ante as well. So I decided to dress up as Tim Curry in Rocky Horror Picture Show, Dr. Frankenfurter. So I went the whole Megillah. I got the corset. I had briefs on. I had garter belts on. I had a cape on. I had lipstick on. I had white face. I had the wig on. I had everything. I looked good. And I thought, okay, I cannot lose this. So I go to work, and everybody loves it. I mean, everyone comes up to me screaming, "Let's take pictures with you. You look great. You have a lot of balls to do this. I took a lot of guts to do what you did. Good job. It's fantastic that you were able to do that." And comments like that. And then the vote comes, and I don't win. I don't win first prize. I don't win second prize. I was the runner-up, third prize. There's no prize for third place, but they say I had the third most amount of votes. I was short by about 4 votes to win one of the prizes. So, needless to say, I was very disappointed because the costumes that won was really, really good. And I voted for that person. The other was just someone making fun of one of the managers. And I like the person who dressed up like that, but do I think it deserved to be a $200 award after what I dressed up, or how other people, not necessarily me, but there are other people who really went all out and did some costumes, and then just getting this person who was making fun of one of the managers, which is another thing about this job, is that I think they thrive on cruelty, but that's a whole nother issue that I really want to talk about in there. But what got me the most was, I think, when I first appeared and one of the co-owners of the company saw me, they said, I may have to rethink the costume contest because they didn't like my costume. And I also knew that one of the other managers absolutely probably was embarrassed because they came in, and as a joke, they walked back out and then came back in and made a little offhand joke, stuff like that. Our new manager, I found out later on, doesn't like gay or trans people, so he just didn't talk to me at all and ignored looking at me in any form or another. And then our other co-owner of the company, he made some jokes, but that was about it. A lot of the people of the managers of the company are Republican hater types. And me dressing up as a transvestite character was probably uncomfortable for them. So they didn't vote for me. And that's fine. Look, I'm not conspiracy theorying it anyway because it's a vote. It's a blind vote. You can vote whoever the fuck you want to. Okay? I don't know who they voted for. I don't care who they voted for. But I just have a feeling that they probably didn't vote for me, but they rather vote for the person that was making fun of one of the other managers because, hey, we're being made fun of. Yay, that's pretty cool. We're making fun of these people, and that's how we jive. When we, the world is too serious now where we can't make fun of people anymore. And so they said, oh, look, they made fun of this person. Hey, they should win this award. So they voted for them. But look, it's their right to vote for whoever they want to. Am I disappointed? Absolutely. But the fact is that you voted because you could not take someone dressed up as a transvestite. And that's just sad. And that's all I have to say about that. Look, I'm disappointed. Hell yeah, I'm disappointed. This is the second time I've been disappointed in this costume contest. My second year, I dressed up as the Hulk. I thought it was great. I had full green makeup on. I had torn shirts. I was in character and did all this stuff because I did some acting. And I didn't win that one. Who did win was a guy who had a plastic screw put in his head and had blood dripping down with it and looked like he was a zombie sort of type. But it wasn't like it was just some makeup and that screw thing. But the rest of himself wasn't anything. He won. I had full makeup on. I was in character. I did the character. I didn't win that one. So that one hurt. This one hurt a lot too because it was $200 and I absolutely think I should have won. But again, 4 votes shy. Do I think it's the managers? I absolutely think it's the managers and the co-owners of the company. But there also, you got to think about there's 50 plus people who work there. So there were other people who probably didn't vote for me also. And that's fine. I don't care. And one of the things you can do is you can vote for yourself. I voted for myself. But it just felt like the reason why I didn't win and those 4 votes were missing was because management does not like transvestites. And they could not talk to me. They could not look at me. Even after I put the makeup on, they were avoiding me. And I was just like, what's the fucking problem with you? It's Halloween. Doesn't mean I'm a transvestite. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it doesn't mean I'm a transvestite. And then the one manager who doesn't like gays and transvestites, he didn't talk to me for 3 days. So I didn't want to get into work, but I did, but I want to get that off my chest. So this went a little longer than I wanted to, but I was glad that I did it. As I said, I've got ideas for some other ones, and I know it's probably not everybody's cup of tea. This is just something that I want to do. It's my therapy, so I just want to do it on my own. So I'm hungry. I'm going to have something to eat. Wish you have a good rest of your week. Watch my Dylan Knows show, which might be more up your alley. It's just me just spouting off a bunch of pop culture stuff and other things that went on this past week. This one, it says to me, my more personal one, and if you don't want to get too personal with me, that's fine. But this is a way for people to get to know me a little bit better and my beliefs and stuff like that and get me a chance to, say what I want to say off my chest. All right. My family just got home, so I'm going to sign off here. All right. So farewell. Bye. No, I'm finishing my show.